Oi, oi, and welcome to the Orient Outlook podcast, sponsored by Carol Langley Florist, with myself, Steve Nussbaum, and as always, I'm joined by my good friend, my Southdown chum, the bearded legend, the one and only, the daddy-o, it's Mr. Paul Levy.
Thank you very much indeed. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. This is episode 428. It's our penultimate one of the season, you may be pleased to know. Thanks to everyone who tuned into our show last week, which was a bit of a tough one given the situation that we found ourselves in. This week, we're going to review our final game of the season against Burton Albion. Quick roundup of what's gone on at the club in the last 7 or 8 days. And so for the last time for a league game this season, but our penultimate one of the season, let's just crack on. And as always, we start with a word from our podcast sponsor.
Yeah, so the podcast is sponsored by Carol Langley Florists. They're based in Chingford and have served the borough of Waltham Forest and the surrounding area for more than 70 years. They've got a fantastic team there, can do anything you need them to do, from bespoke wedding events, family funeral tributes, birthdays, anniversaries, staying up parties, you name it, they can do it. And they offer all O's fans and staff 15% off, which could bring you a huge saving. So if that interests you, you can give them a call on 0208 529 4130. You can go online, look at their website, www.carollangley.co.uk, or you can find Carol Langley on social media. They're on Instagram at Carol Langley Florist. They're on Twitter at Carol Langley E4. They're also on Facebook at Carol Langley Florist as well. Probably time for a shameless plug. The podcast will go on next season. If you're interested in being involved with the Orient Outlook podcast, we do have plenty of sponsorship opportunities. So if you're interested, give us a DM on any of the social media platforms, or give us an email, orientoutlook@outlook.com or orientoutlook1881@gmail.com.
Indeedy. So, one piece of AOB for this week, because obviously no supporters club business to tell you about moving forwards because the season's done. But one piece of fabulous news has come through that, and a huge congratulations to the Teague family as they welcomed a new baby. He messaged us to say that his daughter had a son who was born during the week, and his daughter and the baby are doing very, very well. So congratulations to you, Kent, to your daughter, Emily, and the whole family. Absolutely delighted to hear this, and wish them all the best.
Absolutely. Great news. Before we crack on in with the week that was, just want to shout out Jamie Wood and Ed Morgan on Buy Me a Coffee, who supported us this week. So thanks to you guys, thanks to everyone over the course of the season who have responded and supported the Orient Outlook podcast on Buy Me a Coffee. I think we've both been blown away by the level of support on that platform. If you've listened to the podcast this season and enjoyed it and want to support us or any independent podcast, you can go onto the Buy Me a Coffee website, which is freely available. You can find the link on our own Linktree page right down the bottom, or if you're on Buy Me a Coffee, you can search for the Orient Outlook podcast, which enables you to support us here on Outlook Podcast Towers. So once again, a massive thank you to Jamie, thank you to Ed, and thanks to everyone who has done that for us over the course of this season.
Very much appreciated. So let's move on then very quickly now through to the week that was. Happy Monday, the 27th of April. 7 years ago to the day, we were crowned National League champions with a 0-0 home draw against Braintree. Remember that one? A bit of a nothing game.
It was.
But it wasn't really about the game. It was about the occasion. We drew that. We got promoted as champions under the late and great the one and only Mr. Justin Edinburgh. So we remember that day very, very fondly.
Yeah, what a weekend that was. I had all the Facebook memories appear of our pictures with Justin, which was still one of my favourite pictures in the Orient Outlook podcast gallery. A great day, great weekend. It was lovely to hear Justin's name sung as well during the match again on Saturday, like it always is. So 7 years, Big time for that 10-year reunion dinner soon. That we'll definitely be at. Tuesday, Tuesday, 28th of April. And as predicted in our last episode, the club announced home support would be extended at Brisbane Road for the upcoming fixture against Burton Albion due to low sales in the visiting section. I think there might be a few tweets about that a bit later. There was a bit of aggro there, wasn't there?
I think there was, and there was a lot of us. I was in the East Stand for the last game with my son's football team. Thank you to the community, football in the community. April, I think her name is, that handles all of that. Brilliant. Really appreciate that. There's a lot of standing up and looking. I think there's a bit of aggravation down there. I think they'd sold more tickets than had been accounted for or something. And anyway, a bit of a fuss and a kerfuffle down there. To a Tuesday,
Yeah, Don Ballard.
the 28th of April, still on that day, because
Yes.
Don Ballard was named, without a shadow of anyone's doubt, the EA Sports Young Player of the Season. And he was also named in the EA Sports Team of the Season, which is, I'm not really into all of this. You've got a bit of a better view on this.
Very decent.
That's like global as well, right?
Yeah, well done to Dom. Yeah, Dom has had, I mean, he's going to get loads of plaudits, and obviously going to speak about Dom a bit later. But again, to do that in any season, let alone his kind of first with the O's as a 21-year-old, just turned 21 as well. Again, you're looking to kind of put more value on him. Definitely, these things do not hurt whatsoever.
100%.
So massive well done there to Don Ballard. Okay, going on in Tuesday, the under-17s were in action. They were playing Brentford in the final of the Arsenal Academy Cup. And we found ourselves 2-0 down within the opening 24 minutes. We pulled a goal back in the 28th minute through Batendo. And in the 39th minute, Brentford went down to 10 men as they had a player sent off, as the O's went in 2-1 down at the break.
The second half saw the O's equalise in the 50th minute through Batendo, and 8 minutes later we took the lead through a lob thanks to Joel Mensah, and the Young O's wrapped up the trophy in the 94th minute as Scarlett made it 4-2, which is how the game finished, and the youngsters ended up winning the Arsenal Academy Cup. So congratulations and well done to the Young O's. That is no mean feat to turn Brentford over.
Superb, well
Things
done.
you love to see.
Love to see the Young O's win a cup as well. Well done to everyone involved with that one. On Wednesday, the 29th of April, it was a quiet day at the club with no news to report. So we'll move on into Thursday, the 30th of April.
The build up to the weekend, the big game at the weekend. So the club put out a message from the majority shareholder David Gandler ahead of the upcoming fixture at home to Burton, who said, a part of it reads, "The board and I will provide a more thorough review of the season after the weekend. But before then, I wish to reiterate this. Please come with energy and positivity on Saturday. Be our 12th man and give the players that extra couple of % to complete the job in front of them."
A call to arms.
A rallying call for the masses.
Yeah.
Really. But I don't think there was ever any in doubt. We've done our job this season. For me, it was more about the players turning up and with their heart and their soul and their appropriate attitude and desire.
You knew it was going to happen though, didn't you? I think you had Will Forrester, on the Tuesday night.
It's like, who didn't they put out?
Will Forrester reading a cue card. I think it would have been more natural just to go, Will, just say what you need to say and make it from the heart. Like, these footballers aren't actors. So sometimes they just need to be a bit more, I don't know what the word is, personable when they do it. But you say Will Forrester, you had Theo Archibald, who, everyone loves Theo, right? And Theo's, I guess, a bit more natural.
You could tell he wasn't reading,
David Gandler. So you knew you're going to get the call to arms. But again, I think it works both ways, doesn't it? And I think we've said numerous times on this podcast, it's not only about the supporters giving it, but you need to see it. It's like a self-fulfilling rule, isn't it? It needs to spin from supporters to the players, back to the supporters, back to the players.
Yeah.
And I think we really saw that on Saturday. There's going to be loads of comments about that. But do you know what? I think I've been quite critical of David Gandler this season. But I think if you're looking at it from the other kind of side, you can actually go, and he's been a great chairman so far because he's given you a bigger player budget. He's kind of stepped away. He's not taking any limelight. He's kind of stepped away and gone, actually, it's running fine as it is. We've got a good manager. I've put Nigel in there for another 2 years because he's running it fine. Just continue what you're doing.
I agree.
And I'm stepping back. I've been quite critical because all you hear from him really has been stadium. And I'm a bit like, just need to give it a rest for a little bit because I need to hear you talk a bit about football. But in another group I'm in, when actually, do you not think he's doing a great job because he's literally pumping the money in, step back. He's not making it all about him. And I thought, actually, do you know what? It's a really good point. It's a fair point. So be interesting to see kind of what the thorough review is, as he alluded to within that final paragraph. I think there's going to be obviously a lot of things that happen this week, which could make it a very interesting week to be an Orient fan. So
I agree.
We will see. Right, Friday, the 1st of May, May Day. Again, a very quiet day at the club with all attention and talk being firmly on the Burton Albion match.
So let's get into it then. On Saturday the 2nd of May in the morning, the Young O's were in action for the final time this season against Cambridge United. They had the worst possible start though. They went a goal down in the first minute, Cambridge doubling their lead in the 11th minute as the first half finished with the Young O's going down 2-0 at the break.
Yeah, second half started just as bad as Cambridge made it 3-0 in the 46th minute, but the Young O's did pull a goal back through Joel Mensah in the 59th minute as the last game of the season ended in a 3-1 defeat. So unlucky to the Young O's, but well done on another terrific season to everyone involved. And what a day for Cambridge, beating the Young O's and then getting promoted back into League One. That's another away day, a local away day in League One next season.
3 locals, Bromley, MK Dons and Cambridge.
It's going to be a
very southern league next season.
Good, about time.
Well, more southern, not very, but more southern.
About time.
Because who are we losing going out? Yeah, we're losing a couple of northern teams going out, a couple coming in. Very nice. Before the game against Burton, as we have done all season, we run a Twitter poll to see how you think, just a fun Twitter poll to see how you think we're going to get on in this game. We had 116 votes, 24% of which thought we'd draw, 25%, so quarter thought we'd lose, but just a very slight majority, 51% went for a win.
I think everyone's
overly optimistic. Overly optimistic. But thank you to everyone, not just for voting on that day, on that poll, but for all the polls throughout the season. Very much appreciate it.
Absolutely. If you're not seeing these polls on your timeline, go and have a look at our Twitter profile and vote. They always go live normally around 6 p.m. On a Thursday. So again,
but don't worry, because that's it now until August.
I echo Paul's sentiments. Yeah, absolutely. But we do have a big week of Twitter polls coming up with our
we do
end of season Twitter polls that always seem to go down well. Right, before kick off on this one, Don Ballard was awarded Goal of the Month, unsurprisingly, for his goal against Lincoln City. So another award there for Don Ballard. And then at 1:45, that team was announced that we'd all been waiting for, with Dennis in goal, Craig, Forrester, Simpson and Morris at the back, with Claire, Abdullah, Mitchell, Wellens, Connolly and Ballard making up the 11, with Cahill, James, Happy, El Mazzuni, Backinson, Levitt and Sonny Perkins completing the bench.
Yeah, which meant there were 3 changes for the O's from last week's defeat at Blackpool, as Richie once again in the stands due to his suspension, 2 of 3 games that he is serving, so he'll not be on the touchline for the first game of next season. And someone mentioned to me that he perhaps shouldn't have been where he was at Blackpool either, so not sure if that means anything, but I'm not that clued in to know. But what did you think when you saw that at 1:45?
Mostly what I was expecting. I think great to see Connolly make it as expected. Obviously, he's done 90 minutes at Blackpool, so he's done 90 minutes previously. Huge shame not to see our misstart. I was hoping Richie was calling everyone's bluff by saying he could only give him half hour. I was thinking, Mr. Wellens, I hope you're pulling the old strings again.
Did you put him in your fan hub team? Yeah. You did.
Absolutely. Yeah. Theo, I was hoping more in hope than anything else. Not seeing him in the squad was always sad. Such a big influence on the pitch. Thought it was a big risk on the bench. Only one real attacking player there in Sonny Perkins.
Arguably.
Well, no Karoma, no Matthews. So to have Perkins,
Island, aren't they?
They do appear to. I mean, AJ Matthews literally played what?
An hour. Played 60 minutes.
Started one game
in February.
Made a cameo as a sub, maybe in one other game. Haven't seen him all season.
Yeah.
Karoma has had a dreadful season. Let's not beat around the bush. There's more to come on that in next week's podcast. Do you know what though? I thought Dan Happy would start this one. I thought he'd start Happy over Simpson. I thought, you talk about heart, you talk about spirit. Dan Happy's been with the O's for many a year. He knows what it means to be an Orient player. So I thought he might get a nod over Simpson, who's obviously been with us for a less amount of time. I thought he might go, actually, Dan, you know how important this game is to everyone on the streets late. And not to kind of, I guess, take away anything from Jack Simpson as an Orient player, but I thought Happy has come through the ranks and knows how important this game is to the fan base.
Yeah.
So,
but equally, if he's not that fit,
possibly,
for instance, you don't want to risk him, because then you're going to make him rehab through the summer when he should be getting himself ready for next season. So it's probably just not worth. It's just really not worth that risk. And is Jack Simpson going to play for us next season? Is he going to be offered a new? Both of our left centre backs are out of contract.
Yeah, I thought it was a huge call for Michael Craig to start.
Yeah,
I thought that was a massive call.
Agree.
Again, maybe James wasn't up to starting it, and maybe fitness, but who knows. I must say, went to the fan park before the game. I need to shout out Nigel Travis being in the fan park. But bearing in mind this was a game where we could have been relegated. I don't think you'll often see a chairman of a football club in a fan park 2 hours before kick-off of a game where you might be getting relegated. He had a smile on his face. He was very positive. He was talking to supporters. So I need to shout that out. I thought that was a real kind of, I thought it was a good touch of class there.
Absolutely.
Touch of class. Many a chairman would have gone missing on that day and wouldn't be interested in talking to it. 100%. So I must say, well done to Mr. Travis and Steve Tate as well for being out there talking to the fans, taking their feedback. Because most of it would have been, what's happened this season? What are you doing? How disappointing is it?
Yeah,
Would have been
quite
negative.
negative,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. So, well played to those gents. Your views on that?
Yeah, I got 8 out of 11 on FanHub. I didn't expect Claire and Abdullah to play, and I thought Backinson would be one. I didn't think Connolly would start, and I didn't see where Craig would come into it either, to be honest with you. That was a bit of a throw. You just never know. I know Connolly had played before, but I just... Oh no, sorry, I did put Connolly in, obviously in Ballard. Mitchell and Wellens, I think, was the toss of the coin as to who, because they've been in and out. So, excuse me, yeah, very, very different dilemma for me this year. But like you, Craig did not see that one coming at all. But look, for a big game, these people have got to turn up and they've got to play. Absolutely, no question or a doubt. Could that team be any good? Don't know. But the bench, you've got to see El Miz come on. Levitt needs to make an impact if he comes on as well. So let's see.
All right, lots and lots of tweets with a very nervous fan base. Andy Wobbs said Perkins is going to come off the bench and score his one goal and keep us up.
Tron 1786937. I think that's a new one for me, so welcome to the show. People get so excited about the game and then complain when a lineup like this comes out. What other options do we have? Just get behind the lads.
Paul R. Gregory, so talk about all your eggs in one basket. Only one forward player on the bench, and that's Perkins.
Paul Red Rum said, how can he play Simpson after the last few games? He is a weak link in a weak team. I fear for us today. I'm sorry, but to me, Wellens has picked a team to lose. That midfield is so weak. If El Miz is on the bench, does that mean he's fit? Then play him.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it, to try and get the grasp right.
You don't want to break him. You don't want to break him either.
It's difficult. Clark Cam 100. So this is what 2 years of mainly disastrous permanent signings get you.
Real Rich Brown said, some terrible players in there, but frankly, that's our squad. Fingers crossed for a bit of Ballard or Connolly magic to get us out of this.
Sean Slater, THFC, who must be happier today, said it's all come down to one game. Names don't matter today. It's the fight, togetherness and determination to get the result needed is all that counts.
Phil VZ1 said, hoping to be proved wrong, but TJ Bax and Idris have to start. Even if Idris only has 45 minutes in the tank, he should play from the start. Please let me be proved wrong. Come on, Orient.
All right, so lots of tweets. I'm going to ask you to be the legend. We weren't sitting together for this one.
Yeah.
I was quite calm and collected. I think I'd been saying all week and said on last week's podcast, I couldn't see any way that Exeter City would beat Bradford City. I know football, you never know what's going to happen, but I just could not see Exeter City turning over Bradford. So for me, I was quite chill. I ran into lots of fellow supporters and a few listeners of the pod. Pre-match, some are more nervous than others, but I was absolutely fine. Like, I didn't feel like it was ever going to happen. So I was quite calm at kick-off. You? How are you feeling?
Yeah, your logic and reason is fair, but like you said, this is football. So for me, like, I was anxious to the extent that I didn't think that we would win that game. So then we were reliant on matters outside of our control. But like you say, logic-wise, Bradford still needed to get something from that game because of their situation.
Exactly.
So they had but two teams with something to play for. One of them, something had to give somewhere. Worst case scenario, Exeter win and we lose, then we go down. But that would probably be what our just desserts would be for this season. So you wouldn't complain at that. That's just how it would be. And I think that, with Bradford being the stronger, the bookies would have had them obviously down as the favourites to win that game, quite rightly. In hindsight, with logic, you wouldn't be so nervous about it. But it's football, anything could happen. Exeter could have struck early and nicked an early goal and sat back and absorbed loads of pressure. And that'd have been it done. They'd have just seen out, a 1-0 win. So, but it didn't happen that way. So it's all moot anyway.
Yeah, all right, absolutely. So Burton got the game and the final game of the season underway in a sunny and packed out Brisbane Road, with the O's knowing a win would keep them in League One for next season. And if they couldn't get the win, then all eyes would be on Exeter, who could only leapfrog the O's in the league if they could beat Bradford City at home, like we said, who also needed to win to guarantee themselves a place in the playoffs. So all to play for. And in the first minute, a long ball forward found Don Ballard. He played Charlie Wellens in, and Charlie won us a corner.
He did. Charlie then swung the corner in. It was nodded back across his own goal by Beasley. It came off the back of Will Forrester and past Collins to make it 1-0 to the Orient. Now, where I sat, that was right in front of us because I was in the east yesterday, and it was a lot of bodies in the way, so we couldn't see it go in until it had actually sort of hit the back of the net. But what a start.
A great start. I mean, when we were in the south, it looks like Forrester just heads it in.
He does, yeah.
He hasn't. Forrester hasn't got a clue where that ball is. It just hits the back of his backside and just goes in.
He's being pulled and tussled and all this kind of held and all this kind of. So he did well there.
But a great start. I mean, you couldn't have asked for a better start than that. Perfect playing conditions, great atmosphere in the ground, and you're 1-up after 2 minutes with a fairly fortunate goal. And you're going, is this the luck that we needed?
Yeah.
And you can, and again, I think you got to think of the effects of that at Exeter as well. Knowing that if we won, there's nothing they could have done. That would have gone right around St James's Park early on and completely flattened that atmosphere.
Agree. That's exactly what I said.
That was a massive goal.
That's exactly what I said.
Because imagine if we were Exeter, you need to win, and suddenly in 2 minutes, the team you need to lose are winning 1-0. You'd feel it. You'd feel it on the pitch as a player, and you'd feel it around the ground. So, great start for us.
100%.
Party time.
Absolutely. Tavares looked to tap home a low cross by Webster, but somehow Will Dennis was on hand to make an exceptional save as he parried the ball away.
Yep.
What a great save.
That was a brilliant save. I mean, they were threatening. I think before that, Webster had a shot that was like swerving that Dennis done well to kind of get in the way of, and they were kind of overlapping on one side and having some decent success. I thought Tavares was pretty decent for them. I thought Webster was a great player in the centre of their midfield. But that save from Dennis, I mean, that's got to be up there with one of the saves of the season for Orient. That was an absolutely phenomenal save.
He kept us in that game.
By Will Dennis. That 14th minute save was absolutely stupendous.
Yeah.
Great, as good as a goal, right? Literally.
Agree, yeah.
And again, you're sitting there, 15 minutes gone going. We scored an early goal, quite fortunate. Keeper's made a great save, fortunate. They go and score a second goal and get this game over and done with, and we can all go home and relax. 23rd minute, Will Dennis was in action again after Charlie Wellens, who wasn't having his best game. I don't want to go too hard in on Wellens because he's had a hard couple of weeks, but he was struggling a bit out there. He kind of took a side sweep at the ball, completely missed it. The ball came out to McKernan, who caught it beautifully. And again, Dennis was there to make a lovely diving save and a strong arm as well to get the ball well out of danger.
That power on it, that shot.
Good save there by Dennis again.
Agree, he's having a real big game, and he was man of the match for that game, so it tells you all you need to know.
Absolutely.
31 minutes now, a chance for the O's, saw a long throw in from Sean Clare, flicked on by Jack Simpson. Will Forrester read the flight of the ball, made his run into the box, got ahead of his man, but headed over from just a few yards out. Again, down our end, very close.
Should have scored. Beats his man. I think he's probably worried about getting a clatter in the head from their keeper.
I think he's just a bit too high to be able to then head it down. He'd used all his strength and neck muscles to get himself up to meet the ball. He'd then not left himself any. He was at the peak of his leap, if you like. I'm sorry, I sound like I'm really over
his leap.
Yeah, I'm overanalyzing this, but he could only head it forwards. Like he couldn't get it down because of where he'd come to meet it.
Yeah, decent chance.
Yeah.
I mean, this Sean Clare throw on. Where's this spin all season?
Where's it happened? Yeah.
What a tool this has been. I ain't seen him do this.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him do it much. He's done it a couple of times. Like, mate, this is a great weapon. Why haven't we been utilising this? So big chance there. An even better chance, arguably, a minute later, as Don Ballard chased down a loose ball on the left, won it, cut the ball back to the oncoming Dimitri Mitchell, who drilled the ball wide of the far post. He might have been slightly off balance there, Dimitri, but great chance. Running into the box, unmarked from close range
He wasn't off balance at all.
If he hits that,
he should have scored.
He should have, and then if he hits that, it's 2-0. And again,
that should have been a goal.
Job done.
It was on his stronger foot, his left foot. He just needs to just guide it in. I know this is not a visual podcast, but I'm kind of doing the curve.
Oh, he glided it wide. He glided it wide.
wide.
I mean, that's the story of the season for somebody. So, apart from Don Ballard, we were having this conversation earlier. Like, no other player, and Connolly has obviously missed a lot of the season. So has Idris. No other player scores for him. It's very rare. And this is something that I think Richie has mentioned previously. These players have got to step up and start scoring. Forrester's already scored in this game. I mean, arguably could have had a second. But players like your Mitchells, your Backinsons,
your Wellens,
like
playing in the 10.
Well, how are you like? Your goal and assist needs to be better.
Yeah, agree.
And as we
contribute more,
as you would expect, as has happened this season, for all the missed chances we had, for all their pressure, it was Burton who equalised again a minute later after Dennis parried a powerful shot from Beasley into the path of Tavares, who had the easiest tap-ins to tap home the equaliser from close range to make it 1-1. That was all too easy. Long ball, win the first ball, Bosch shot, saved goal.
Yeah, done.
Too easy. Story of the season.
Head in hands at this moment in time because you think, here we go. Because it had been coming. You know, they tested Will Dennis. Thankfully, Will Dennis had stood up to that test and come out with flying colours. And yet here they are with pretty easy goal.
Well, I think they played quite openly attacking football. They weren't there just to kind of make up the numbers. And at 1-0, their heads didn't go down, and the crowd were getting behind them as well. They brought like a decent number. I think
550
more than what I thought
Yeah.
most people expected. And they were there to kind of celebrate the end of their season, which for them, to stay in the division with a game to spare is a huge success. So there's no pressure on them. Party time for them. And they were playing some good... They played all right. They played some decent football at points. So probably a deserved equaliser. But I will say at that point, the fans could have easily turned on the team. And they didn't. You know, as soon as the goal went in, it was all everyone standing up. Rishi Williams went White Army again, like blaring around the ground. So the crowd stuck with them. So it wasn't like anyone got on the players' backs. Still supporting the team. And again, testament to the Orient crowd for that.
Completely agree with you. Just before that moment, though, word trickled its way through on people's terrible 3G, 4G, 5G connections, whatever it is you're working on these days, because the Wi-Fi in the ground really doesn't work well at all. Bradford had taken the lead at Exeter, so cue euphoria in my little section.
Well, like I said, that changed the dynamics again, right? Because then Exeter had to score 2 goals,
correct,
as opposed to 1. And again, I'm sitting there going, I still can't see it happening. I must say, the Wi-Fi in the South Stand on Saturday was top notch. I don't know whether they put something in the South Stand, like a better dongle or whatever it is. I'm not IT
savvy or au fait.
Yeah, but normally I can't get onto Twitter or anything for love or money in the South. And every time I tried, more often than not, I was on it. So
nothing in the East.
Nothing in the East.
Just 5G signal that worked temperamentally.
All right, 3 additional minutes out in the first half were played. Nothing happened, and the half came to a close. 1-1, with it all looking good for the Orient so far. We weren't losing. Exeter were to Bradford.
So we were safe.
Happy days.
Absolutely. We were on 52 points at this stage. 8,534 inside Brisbane Road with 555 away support. Decent,
yeah, absolutely. A few half-time tweets that came in. 1881 Will said, we have no tempo. Absolutely no idea what it is or how to create it. As an us, I thought we need Bradford to continue to help us.
Ed Turns, great to see you after the game on Saturday, Ed. Mitchell and Craig have looked good down the right. Nice to see some fight. Shame it's been lacking most of the season. Here's to a good second half.
Gorillas 1985 said, we are woeful at the back, relying on our keeper to keep us in it. Too many players jogging around like it's pre-season. We definitely need Elmir's on this second half. Plus, we need better balls for Ballard. And come on, Bradford.
Casey Adams LOFC said that girl's just won £10,000 hitting the crossbar, has done more on the pitch than any of our central midfield players today. So just for those who don't know, at half time at the South Stand goal, the club's stadium partner, BetRight, put £1,000 in the pot. If you hit the crossbar, you win that money, and if you don't, it rolls over to the next week. And it had accumulated to £10,000. And this young lady, Georgia Wallace, had basically done that.
Yeah, so congratulations to her. The cleanest of strikes that you'll ever see to hit a crossbar on a crossbar challenge. Bang in the middle of the goal, bang in the middle of the crossbar, hit it sweetly. South Stand was absolutely delighted. It's probably the lift we needed at half time.
Yeah.
You know, it was all good anyway. I think we were kind of talking about the game and about how it's kind of maybe losing a bit of a grip of it. And then she comes on and hits the crossbar, and everyone's that loving life again. So well done.
Good
Spend
luck
the 10 grand wisely, young lady. All right, one change at half time. Sean Clare, who I thought had an all right game. I think he might have picked up a little knock when he went down after a challenge in the first half. He went off. He was replaced by Idris El Mazouni as Orient got the second half underway.
We restored our lead 6 minutes into this half as Idris had won the ball back in midfield. Superbly, I may add. He drove forward. He found Michael Craig, who then in turn found Don Ballard. He'd made some space for himself and made no mistake burying his effort into the bottom corner of the net to notch up his 23rd goal of the season, make it 2-1 to Leyton Orient, and send the whole of Brisbane Road into euphoria. What a moment.
He does that so well.
Yeah.
He's done that a few times this season where he gets it low, early pass, it's him against the defender, takes it on the outside and drills it across into the far post. It's very similar to his goal against Reading earlier in the season. Wonderful finish. And I was glad he scored that, because I think that was a point in my kind of post-match that this could well be the last time you saw Don Ballard in an Orient shirt at Brisbane Road. So if it is to be the last time, he scored on his final game for us. So very happy with that. At that point, you're thinking, right, you've got 40 minutes left now, chaps. Don't blow it. win the game, and let's all have a stress-free afternoon.
I will say as well though, that is like that is a signature for me, Don Ballard goal, because that's just what he does for a lot of his goals. He cuts back and he just goes into that far corner.
Keep getting anywhere near it. Wonderful finish.
James Morris was booked for a challenge on Lofthouse in the 54th minute.
All right, and in the 56th minute, the O's thought they'd made it 3-1 as Aaron Connolly had a shot from outside the area. Powerful effort. It was palmed out, and Dimitri Mitchell top-timed the rebound, but the flag was up for offside, with Collins and Forrester having some naughty little words after, with the referee giving them both a talking to. I saw that back on the highlights. That was tight. That was a really tight call. Probably the correct one, but very tight nonetheless. I mean, if it wasn't offside in 3-1, home and dry. So at that point, still only a goal in it.
Burton made it 2-2 in the 58th minute after a Webster free kick was nodded back across goal by Moon. It was met by Beasley and then Hartridge at the far post, who was played onside by Forrester because we were all claiming offside, but as it turned out, there was Forrester literally on the line and suddenly it was 2-2. Wasn't offside at all.
Not at all.
Not in any stretch of anyone's imagination was he offside for that.
I hate that goal for so many reasons. A nothing free kick.
Yeah.
Right, but again, if the free kick comes to nothing and we defend it, we don't even talk about the free kick. A nothing free kick. 3 headers. Not one. 3 free headers in our own box for Burton. The first one, Bosch. The second one, that's headed towards goal. And then, what's his name? Whoever scores the goal, just heading it in from close range. Rubbish defending. And then the cheek for our defenders to... Forrester's on the goal line. How can you appeal for offside? You're on the goal line. And you're thinking, this is the story of our season. This is why we are where we are. We just can't hold a lead. Just literally can't defend for love or money. Nothing Dennis could do about that one. Poor defending. Those defenders got to look at themselves as opposed to looking at the referee for a flag.
Yeah.
That was never going up.
Absolutely right.
Come on.
Dan Happy came on to replace Jack Simpson very shortly after this.
Well, Happy was about to come on just before that free kick was taken. Obviously held it off, and then before you know it, he's coming on into a 2-2 pitch. All right, Charlie Wellington went close to restoring the lead. I mean, there was quite a lot of chances in this one in the 62nd minute. Some nice build-up play. Saw Charlie take a great first touch to get him in a great position, but he kind of threw the ball across goal, didn't he? Well wide. It wasn't even close, unfortunately. So unlucky there by Wellington. I mean, if anyone needed a goal at that point, you're thinking would have done Wellington the world of good to get a goal, but not to be.
Indeed. Double substitution in the 67th minute. Azim was replaced by Tyreek Backinson and Tom James came on to replace Michael Craig.
All right, Aaron Connolly, who had taken a couple of big challenges during the match, kept getting up. This time, took the third one. This one was too much for him. Hurt his shoulder. I think he got up and then went down straight away as the match resumed. He couldn't continue and was replaced by Sonny Perkins in the 77th minute.
How's your luck, Aaron Connolly? Recovers from his leg issue and now he's hurt his shoulder.
He's like Grealish. Like, he's a player who ultimately will win you fouls because defenders just don't know. The only way the defenders can stop him is by fouling him.
Yeah.
I would dare say, I don't know what the stats are, but in the minutes he's played, how many free kicks he's won for O's as like a percentage of minutes played. And I'm sure it'll be really high because defenders just can't get to grips with him. And I remember Grealish's stats were like when he won the title at City and before that at Villa, like the amount of free kicks he would win his team and get him forward up the pitch because people just take him out because his feet are so quick. Like Connolly.
Yeah.
But yeah, really sad news. You know, Connolly's now hurt his shoulder. There's reports that it's not looking good for Aaron.
No, they've seen some sort of stuff out there saying about an operation, a shoulder operation. He'd be out for a couple of months, 2 or 3 months for recovery. So, if that being the case and that does transpire, then, we are sad to hear that, but we wish him well and hopefully see him fighting fit, ready to go for August.
Yeah, absolutely. At this point as well, during the afternoon, the news filtering through that Bradford had gone 2-0 up at Exeter, and that game was pretty much done. At that point, you're thinking, well, there's no way Exeter coming back from this. At one point, Dimitri Mitchell asked the crowd what the score was.
Did he?
Right at the end.
Did he?
And he said, "Is it finished at Exeter?" This was like a bit later on, and it was like, I think it was Heavy D who went, "Yeah, it's finished." And then Dimitri Mitchell wanted to tell Backinson. So they were clearly wanting to know what was going on at Exeter. The O's had a chance in the 80th minute. This one would have blown the roof of Brisbane Road. Some nice build-up play. So Don Ballard play a great ball in to Sonny Perkins, who just got ahead of his man, tried to get the ball in from an angle. It just went wide. That was Perkins' moment.
How wide was that?
Difficult chance. Well, it was fairly wide.
It was wide. Well, wide.
It was fairly wide.
Well wide.
But again, Ballard always makes the right choices in those.
Yeah, I agree.
Always played the right ball. If Perkins would have scored that, apart from almost killing James Morris, that would have been an amazing moment had he scored. And then it started the whole song, if Perkins scores, we're on the pitch.
Yeah, exactly.
Which would have been in a moment. But, still pressing for that winner. It would have been euphoric had that gone in.
There were 7 minutes of additional time that went up on the board, and it must be said that with the Exeter result looking done, it wasn't the most dramatic of finishes. In the final minute, Charlie Wellens met El Miz's cross, which was deflected away for a corner that came to nothing. And a few moments later, the game and the season came to an end with the news that Exeter had lost 2-1 at home to Bradford. Yes, they had pulled a goal back, which we hadn't mentioned earlier. That meant this result and that result at Exeter meant that we had secured League One football for another season.
It was such a late goal. It was nothing more than an absolute consolation. And with that, I think quite a few people had actually left the ground by full time. I was quite surprised how many people had left. So, but now Albion had their own celebration. Fair play to them. I think they've massively overachieved.
Agreed.
You could talk about why they're doing that for. I've got no problem with them doing that at the end of the season. No. Fair play, do it, go
Absolutely.
ahead. So they done their little celebration in front of their own fans. It was nice to see Gary Bowyer, obviously his dad Ian, played for Orient. He went and clapped the Orient fans.
And Beasley as well, his dad was involved with Orient as well.
Yeah, so no problem with that. Well done to Burton Albion. And that was followed by the O squad doing their own muted lap of appreciation, which they did announce before the game they were going to do. So, and we mentioned it kind of last week with Don Ballard receiving some awards over the tannoy before the fans left Brisbane Road for the final time this season.
Some most grateful for that. League table then, so that point plus Exeter's home defeat to Bradford sees the O's finish in 20th place in League One, our lowest finish in this league under Richie. Obviously, I know there's not been dozens of them, but we've now played 46 games, completed the season, completed it, mate. 14 games have been won, 10 have been drawn, a whopping 22 have been lost, with 52 points accumulated and a minus 12 goal difference, 3 above Exeter's in the end.
It would have all been right in the end.
Yeah. I mean, you were right not to stress about it, but you can't help but think football was the funniest and strangest of games.
When we were winning that game, people on live score were looking at the live table, and at points in the live table, we were 17th in the league.
Yes.
Because had we won, we would have leapfrogged Burton. Peterborough were losing.
Yeah.
So you're looking at it going, mate, we can either go down or we can finish 17th place. As it transpires, we didn't win the game as we've just gone through. We got set off for 20th. But even the last game of the season, literally one goal was defining 3 or 4 league places.
Mental.
Where we were. It's been a mental
Crazy.
season. Worth noting that we did finish top of League One for something, as Don Ballard ended up winning the League One Golden Boot and was the joint winner of the EFL Red Boot, which is a new thing this season. As he scored 23 goals. I mean, amazing there for Dom. Incredible. He was tied with Potnam from Swansea City, so they both took the Red Boot. But Dom scored 4 more goals in League One, and his nearest challengers being Carl Wooten of Stockport County and Jaden Wareham of Exeter City.
Yeah, who just got relegated. Shame for them. Good club, fan-run club.
Yeah.
I feel for them, but not at our expense, obviously, but I feel for them. So Richie Wellens did an interview with the club. He also did one, quite famously, as it now transpires. He did one with Dave Victor as well, which seems to have gone a bit viral. It is just shy of 8 minutes, and we are going to indulge because so many talking points from it. We don't know if you've listened to this on BBC Sounds yet already. If you haven't, here it is. This is Richie Wellens talking to Dave Victor after the game against Burton on Saturday.
Richie, thanks for joining us. League One football secured for next season. How do you feel?
I'm pleased for a couple of reasons. Our supporters didn't deserve to be in this position, and our new owner and Nigel have been absolutely terrific this year. So I'm pleased for them in the manner that we did it, and not for me. The last 15 minutes we were a disgrace. Passing it around the back, we didn't want to win the game because we knew that the other game. Well, in football you never know. Exeter can score 2 goals in a minute, but the fact that we're passing around the back, not going for it, kind of sums a group up. And I've come out a couple of times and had a go at our supporters in the past. I want to apologise for now. I'm going to tell you the reason why I've done it. Okay, so we've got a weak group, really, really weak. Okay, and when our supporters give me criticism, I try and take the criticism off them, so then it comes at me. Okay, so I come out and say, the atmosphere wasn't great. Okay, and then supporters come at me to try and take it away from the players. Then week in, week out, especially the last 6-7 weeks, we get served up with rubbish, and I don't feel that my protection of them or going on the verge of ruining a relationship with a group of supporters I've got an unbelievable relationship with, is worth it. Our players have been, we had relegation written all over. We've had to wait for somebody else to get a result for us. We conceded from another set play because we lack leadership. We conceded numerous goals just before half time. We conceded numerous goals after 85. We probably lost 20 points after 85 minutes, probably 80, and then conceding goals at half time. So I told them the fact that we want to celebrate and walk around. I clap the fans because they've earned it. Okay, they've paid the money all season to come and watch us home and away, and they deserve to be clapped. But then don't be celebrating with your family. Get off the pitch. It's been an embarrassing season.
The exception has to be Don Ballard, a golden boot and a red boot.
No, there's a few exceptions. But we have to rely on goal because we can't score goal. Midfield players don't want to make hard runs in the box. We need athleticism. We need more athleticism in a team. We need more character. What I've told them, I've seen an interview last week or the week before. Michael Duff said that his players have wasted 10 months of the and I thought it was a brilliant interview, brilliant interview. And his players in our dressing room that have wasted this season, wasted it. We lack people that run. I have to drive training every day, whereas last year, Darren Pratt, the year before, Darren Pratley would drive it, Omar Beckles would drive it. It has to come from me. And Michael Duff's interview was absolutely brilliant. Too many players that have wasted 10 months of their career, wasted my time. I've had 1 year of my managing career that I've wasted on them players, wasted. And then they've wasted the supporters. We've not given them enough days to turn up to, not enough days, not enough good days. And we can play poorly, but run, fight, be more intent. But yeah, we move on, and hopefully it's down to the recruitment team. Again, I'm not going to go through the same process last year where I'm having 100 Zoom calls in 6 weeks because our recruitment is erratic. Nobody's fault because of the situation. Really, really late. And then obviously we don't get ahead of recruitment in until July the 17th. So it was really, really difficult. So we need to be better in our recruitment. We need to be. Last year we went to Spain for our pre-season. I took 8 youth team players and about 3 trialists. Can't work on stuff. We end up working stuff while the first games of the season, and every season we are behind the 8 ball, and after 5 or 6 games we're always near the bottom, and that's one of the reasons why.
So it's going to be a busy and important summer. Where are your priorities in terms of the squad?
There's certain players that are out of contract that at the moment probably won't be giving them at the same money, because again we're going to be run more off data, and that data doesn't stack up with the way that we want to play. David's brilliant, Nigel's brilliant, and the template that we want to go reflects the way that this club should play football, replicates the way that I want to play football, but we need the personnel now that can carry it out. Sorry, what was your question?
Well, I was talking about where are your priorities for this summer?
Yeah, so the ones that have got contracts are going to be struggling to get a new contract, and then there'll be players that are in contract that we want to move on.
Don Ballard, we already mentioned his awards. He got even more in the EFL. Will he be with us?
Forget his goals. Forget his goals. Okay. Why do we love him? Our supporters last year had songs for about 10 players. We have songs for 2 players this year. We have songs for 2 players. Okay? We love him because he runs, he fights, he tries his very hardest. Yeah? And that is a blueprint or a basic requirement of a professional footballer. We don't. We have too many dilly-dally, loose jewels. So I've said it in numerous interviews, whatever he gets, he needs to improve, he needs to learn. But whatever he gets going forward, he deserves. We want to keep him, absolutely. But then if someone comes in with a figure that is acceptable to David and Nigel, then we'll have to see.
Goalkeeping has been a problem position.
The goalkeeping and left back's been a problem all year. Again, we have hallmarks of a relegation team. Not enough players that are robust enough. It's called on some of them. Too many late goals. Goalkeeper situation. Left back early in the season. And I speak to psychologists a lot, and he actually said the word to me that when Leighton Orient are successful, it brings problems. And he was spot on. He was spot on. We were successful last year and we lose everybody. And it's a nightmare when you're trying to recruit, especially like for like, same. We need more athleticism, we need more speed. We need more. Last year we had Ollie O'Neill, we had Dan Aggie, we had Jamie, 1v1, create. And he's probably 2 or 3 players that were like Charlie. Charlie's coming for a little bit of criticism. I feel for him. He's our lowest earner. Yeah, we signed him to fill in at right back, right wing, centre mid, centre, and he's had to play numerous games because he runs it, he tries hard, and he will improve with time. But then there's some of us that Theo's been unlucky, but Ollie O'Neill needs to be more robust. Demi Mitchell needs to be more, and these are good players. We've got some talented players, but the reason why we are this year is this.
Finally, from Richie, in 12 months' time, what would be a realistic expectation?
I ain't thinking that far in front. Get our recruitment right. We cannot be losing out on A, B, C, D, and E. And then it was the Wednesday before the Watford game this year. Watford was our last pre-season game. We're scrambling around, and that's where last year the loans were outstanding. Year before, loans were outstanding. But when you delay and you delay and you delay, this is not every week. When I look up and a player that I tried to sign for this club has now scored 9 goals for midfield in the Championship because he was too late. One of the wingers is the best wingers in the league. We tried, but we were just late because another club come in is bigger. Okay, Cozy Dubra. Okay, but I'm trying to be realistic because I don't want to kid people. I've kidded our supporters for the last 4 or 5 weeks. Okay, I don't want to do it. I want to be honest. It's not been good enough by any stretch of the imagination. And that last 15 minutes of replication, there's not enough people at this football club with the mentality to win and to win. And you don't have to play beautiful football to win. You fight, you scrap. 46 league games, and you can win 6 or 7, 8 games by fighting and scrapping and winning duels. Stevenage has got in the playoffs, and congratulations to them, because they're all about that. So we need a bit more leadership, a bit more age. I don't want to sign as many loans. I say that every season. But if we can be early within it, we'll reward our fans with a good season next year.
Richie, Ben Jenkins.
All right, so that was Richie Wellens talking today, Victor, after Saturday's game. As Paul said, that interview has gone viral. It's been picked up by Sky Sports News. It's been picked up by TalkSport. There was a Tottenham podcast, the big one, that my boss messaged me today saying they were talking about it on that. There's Leicester fans who picked up on that and are doing big kind of Twitter engagement pieces around that. Obviously, he used to play for Leicester. There's a vacancy there. So lots of Reading fans who have heard that and would like Richie to go in as their man. There's a lot of publicity around that, shall we say. We've got lots of views on it, but before we do that, we're going to talk about our views on it. Yeah. So, bit of legend. I mean, I listened to that for the first time walking home, as we're lucky enough to get these kind of before they go out, and I was literally like, this is insane what is coming out of that. Clearly an emotional Richie Wellens. For me, I think it's a very clever interview. I don't think he realised I think he knew he'd kind of ruffle some feathers, but I think he's absolutely ruffled a huge amount of feathers. I think there's 3 things that I've kind of picked up on that. I think the most important one for me is that is instant pressure on the football club to sort itself out. That's almost like a warning shot for me to go, you get this right, or otherwise see you later. Like, ultimately, he talks about, I guess, wasted opportunities. The loans this season were terrible. Koza Dewberry, were we ever close to getting him? I can't tell you that. If it's a contest between us and Bolton, I would say 9 times out of 10, the players always picking Bolton. Being brutally honest, I think. So I don't know how close we were to Koza Dewberry. But that's, if I'm Dan McClune or Nigel Travis or Mark Devlin or whoever's kind of overseeing that kind of remit of it at the moment, if your manager's saying that stuff, you'd hope, the job starts today, ultimately, in getting those players signed and data-driven and quality into the club. I think he lays down the gauntlet that you can't kind of deny. I think, secondly, I think he kind of absolves himself from some responsibility there. There was no part of that when he goes, I've tried my best with this squad. Sometimes my tactics haven't been correct. Sometimes my substitutions haven't been correct. Sometimes I've gone in with 5 at the back and I should have gone in with 4. He's contradicted himself loads of times this season. Spot on. Numerous times. I think had he held himself a bit more accountable and gone, I've only got what I've got and what I've got hasn't been good enough and I've tried A, B, C, D, it hasn't worked, and I've tried to bluff interviews through it and tried to confuse my opponents, you go, actually, all right, Richie, fair enough. Like, we've kind of seen that. But at no point does he go, actually, a lot of the time when I could have played 4 at the back, I've gone with 5 at the back and put pressure on us, and we haven't really, it's not until second halves where we've kind of rejigged and it's kind of come good for us. So he should take a bit more responsibility around it. And I don't think, any manager, I guess, can say, well, give me the best players in the league and I'll win you the league. That's what football is, right? If you get the best players in the league, like Man City, then you win the league. So that isn't really rocket science to me. And I think, again, I just mentioned it, but I think he's almost put himself in the shop window. There's quite a few vacancies in League One. There might be a few more that come over the next 2 or 3 weeks. Again, like we said, the big Leicester account has jumped on it, and they're going, well, ex-player, like what they've heard.
Halfway to home. Halfway back to Manchester, isn't it?
Interesting. Very interesting. So we'll see. But again, things we love about Richie, he wears his heart on his sleeve. He loves us, we love him. As the song goes, he knows exactly what he needs. He's said there what he needs and what he wants.
Players earlier.
Deliver it, and quality players earlier. Deliver him those goods, and he will deliver.
He's right. He's absolutely spot on. Everything has always been too late. All the recruitment has been last day, last knock-in, scratching around. We can see it. You can see it by when the announcements are of these players, and you can see I can't knock him for that. Really can't. Anything else that you wanted to add?
Not at the moment. There might be a few tweets that might bring something to the floor. But look, he's done a great job at Orient.
In 4 years, he's done.
In the 4 years he's been here, I hope he's here for a 5th year. I was firmly, even if we got relegated, in the Wellington camp.
Yeah.
Because I don't think there's anyone else better to lead, and I think he's got just enough credit for me still to go again. This has been a bad season, and I get why it was so late this season. The playoffs were another 3-4 weeks on top of the season ending. So by the time we came out of that, already clubs have already made their moves. And we couldn't because we didn't know what division we were going to be in. We obviously lost Adji, who was our player. We offered a contract to Galbraith. We would have loved to keep. He goes.
Connolly.
Brown was late in the day, a late kind of removal in the day, and no one saw that one coming. Loan players who we were kind of begging to come back, obviously went on to pastures new. They all went to bigger clubs, as they were always going to do. Like you said, Leighton Orient, when they become successful, are a problem. Like Keeley priced himself out of a move to us. Kelman priced himself out of a move to us. Curry got back into Oxford's good books because of the form he showed us. Donnelly was above League One level football when he went back.
Yeah.
So I completely get that. All those players have gone on to have, probably with the exception of Donnelly, and Donnelly, I guess even to an extent, all decent seasons at League One level or much higher. So a tough one to take. But I think the only thing for me that is I loved it. He needs to take a little bit of accountability.
Yeah, I agree.
But he's also putting the pressure on himself again next season. But I think he thrives under that pressure.
Absolutely. But look what happens when he does get the right players.
Yeah.
That's what happens. So for me, look, got to love the brute honesty. I think it's been missing a lot this season. But does he alienate players? Does he care that he alienates players? I think it's probably the other thing. And just to pick up on what has been said before, I love the fact that we need to get our business done early. Nigel's come out and said it. He's come out and said it. The only people that haven't said it are those that are making those decisions, i.e., like he said, he's got the head of recruitment in late, but Martin Ling has been in that hot seat, and I guess the buck has stopped with him, and obviously we're scratching around to get people in the building just before the season starts, rather than just before pre-season starts. Huge difference in that 5-week time period. Getting one of our top choices rather than the leftovers, was that a dig at the recruitment team?
No.
No doubt at all. Listening again to what he said there, we've got a weak group. Like you said before, accountability. Like, he signed off on those players because, as has been said, he's the one that does it. But I guess if that's all that there is for him to sign off on, he's going to take them and see if he can polish these rough diamonds and see if he can polish them into full-blown gems that maybe could come good. It's a huge punt and risk. And when you consider that David Gandler has topped up the wage budget from, I believe, 4 point something to nearly 6 million. That's quite a lot of money that's been wasted from that point of view. He tries to protect the players with deflection. We can see through that. You might think that they're wonderful people, that they've trained really hard, they've really applied themselves Monday to Friday. Wonderful. Delighted to hear that. But what counts for us as fans is what we see at 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, or 7:45 on a Tuesday, or 8 o'clock on a Thursday, whatever day we end up playing these days. That's what we see. If we don't see that effort, if we don't see what's come to fruition from your training sessions, then, to be perfectly honest with you, don't really care if they don't train all week. What I care about is what they turn up and show us on a Saturday. More importantly, the recruitment is erratic. Hundreds of Zoom calls he mentions, hundreds of Zoom calls. And us doing what? Not signing any of those players. What a waste of his time. What a waste of time. Comments about his son Charlie as well. I think they were spot on. He does run hard. He does work really hard. He does try his best, which is a darn sight more than can be said for some of those others. And the criticism that Charlie Wellens has come under, I feel is harsh and unfair. Okay, it's not been a great season for him, but he's been no worse than anyone else who's got years more experience on him, who's played at higher levels than him. And regardless of whether he's the highest earner, the lowest earner, or middle of the road, doesn't really matter. The fact of the matter is he's been playing in multiple different positions, which others haven't been asked to do. And he's done well. He's acquitted himself well enough. He's never been shown out to be the worst player on the pitch. But equally, he's been playing in all sorts of positions. So, I think I think he's spot on. I think a lot of the fan base have been quite harsh on Charlie, to be honest with you. But then I think when you're annoyed and angry, you just look to point fingers and just, whatever's the lower hanging fruit. But I agree with you. It's a clever interview from Richie. Don't quite understand why it's gone so viral. We had a large national paper contact us earlier today, which we provided a quote for, the iPaper. I don't understand. Michael Duff's interview didn't go that viral. Okay, Michael Duff didn't go perhaps as hard as Richie, but equally, the theme and the tone of that was the same. They've wasted 10 months of their careers here, because Wickham had the expectations. I wouldn't say no to being in Wickham's position in 11th spot with 63 points. They were 12 points off the playoffs, but they lost 4 of their last 6 games, only won 1. So I understand where he's coming from, but equally I swap places with him.
Yeah, I mean, I think the points he makes about taking training, like previously it was Pratley, and Beckles could do that. Well, everyone knew Pratley was going to retire. Or wasn't going to be offered a new contract, and Beckles barely featured. So at that point, it's hard without having him here to go. Was a remit to the transfer committee to get an experienced leader in. Did you not think at any point that we might not be lacking characters on the pitch at any point, because it's youth after youth after youth potentially? And about a week's squad, and I guess we'll come on to it next week in our roundup, and I presume by the time we do our last episode of the season on Sunday that the retained list will be out. But it's a weak squad. Well, at the moment, it's the squad you've got to play with, and unless we're going to start playing FIFA and throw money at players to get them released from contracts, that's the squad you've got for next season. Like, ultimately,
someone's got to want to take.
If you're a Backinson, right, who's got another 2 years. If you're a Koroma, who's got another 2 years, I guess where's your motivation after hearing that? Really, ultimately. And are you only going to play for Richie?
Now, the clever thing is he's not named names of positions.
Oh no, he never will.
Completely. But that means that it doesn't necessarily. I wasn't talking about you, mate. I was talking about someone else. Not casting you under that. You know what I mean? It's that kind of conversation. Like, no, I didn't mean you. Well, who did you? Well, I'll keep that to myself if that's right, but it wasn't. Just know that it wasn't. He then has that kind of backtracking conversation with people, right?
But I like it. But what we've been saying on the podcast, they don't run hard enough. They haven't shown enough fight or desire. If he's saying like they look like a relegation team for the last 5 or 6 weeks, he's obviously never going to say at a post match during the season. That's what we've been saying during the last couple of months, I would say.
We're not stupid. We can see.
Yeah.
We're not stupid. There's no point trying to deflect. Like, we're not idiots. Like, we've got the internet on our, like the World Wide Web on our phones. Like, we can very quickly find information out about people. There's a lot of content on the internet. Like, we see with our own eyes who is doing well, who isn't doing well, who is out of their depth, and who should probably be at a league higher than where they are. We can see that. Like, you haven't got to have a long career in football or any qualifications to know who is a good player and who is not, who is trying hard and who is not. It's very obvious. Sport is a results-orientated and a performance-orientated business. Some industries and some jobs you can hide in, right? Football isn't one of them. It's very obvious. There's 11 of you out there. You can see where the weak links are. And I do completely and fundamentally agree with you that Richie could have been a bit more humble and said, I got it wrong a few times this season. I put my hands up in my post-match and said, I went with this because I thought that would happen, but it didn't, so we changed it. I got the setup wrong. Because we've said it on this podcast on numerous occasions that the setup was wrong. We could see that, and we're not qualified. We haven't got the C licence, never mind the pro licence that he's got. It's not. It's really football is a very simple game that's made complicated by people that are trying to be too clever.
He makes some great points though. The point about Stevenage, just bob on. How many points have Stevenage won late in the game because they know how to attack and they fight for it and they put pressure on completely, and they've done it again to kind of cement their playoff place. But I guess as you can imagine, lots and lots of views on this one. We try and cover the whole fan base. Just because we read them doesn't mean we agree with them. The first one, the newspaper handle for me, Lay Orient 1881 says, does Richie take any responsibility, or does he blame everyone else? Does he accept there was a mistake to sign his son and play him every single week?
No, see, I don't accept that there was a mistake to sign his son, because his son's, like he said, is a utility player and he's not on much money, so it makes absolute sense to me. I don't agree with that sentiment at all. And it's not because I'm a happy, clappy, big Richie fan. Like, I am a Richie fan, I'm a Richie, and I do agree with you as well, to your point about if we'd have gone down, I'd have wanted him to have stayed to get us back up again. I think he's used up a lot of credit for me this season, but equally there's still enough credit in the bank for him. David Sears 3 said, I make him right in everything that he says, but they're his players, and at the end of the day, today was shocking. The midfield and fullbacks are our undoing, and it's so obvious.
Wadsey, so it's good to see you on Saturday. Adam says he's not wrong for a lot of what he says about the players, but who agreed to bring them in the first place?
Paul your accountability, self-accountability point. Paul Ravens 39 said this should be the nail in his coffin. The lack of accountability is embarrassing. He signed them, coaches them, is in charge of tactics and man management. He's a joke, and he needs to go.
Yeah, strong words from Paul. Jord _882 said, I've not been his biggest supporter this season, but I can't fault what he has said. So the bar is either back him or not, and a big summer for the club. It does feel like it's going to be a big summer, I must say.
Just when you think that you've got all your contracted players for next season, minimal turnover, I think we're going to see the opposite again, because we've made some signings on contracts that they shouldn't be on, 2 and 3 year contracts.
The thing is though, none of these players have doused themselves in glory.
None of them look like fighting for a contract.
I don't want to name players, right? But
name, it's fine, we're a podcast.
Well, no, but I'm saying, out of the players, we've still got 2 years left, maybe even a year left. Who's going to buy some of these players?
Yeah.
If you're a League One club, you ain't going to be looking at Perkins or Koroma after the seasons they've had, or Backinson. Levitt.
It'd
We've got it for another year, but
season-long loans with us paying 50% of the wages they go to League Two, for example. Right, just to get some game time and minutes. Season-long loans, not 6-month loans. Season-long loans.
Possibly.
With a recall in January for like 2 days.
The thing is, you can see some of these players maybe going to Bromley or someone like that and doing well, and that'll be the infuriating thing.
Or MK Dons.
Somewhere like that.
Or Cambridge, because it's only up the road. A Cowan 4676 said, I believe a lot of that, but some self-reflection would also help. Removaling was either with the intent to clean out everything, including Richie, or back Richie all the way. We will find out.
He's always been quite complimentary about his relationship with Martin Ling, but in the few kind of things that he said within there, in terms of hundreds of Zoom calls, that was Ling's remit.
Erratic recruitment.
It was Ling. That was Ling.
Scratching around at the last minute.
That was Ling.
Days before the league kicked off. Yeah.
Interesting.
So that potentially tells you what happened to Martin was a result of.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting. Really interesting. Doe Lewis.
Shame.
None of us know what it's like to work behind the scenes. Wellens has had sign-off, yes. But it sounds like he's asked for several players before the ones we ended up with. He's thrown down the gauntlet immediately. Isn't that what we want?
Simon _J_Mills said, very emotional interview by Richie. Once again, though, it's never his fault. He's even blaming the players for him having a go at the crowd. Never him, it's recruitment or players or injuries or the crowd. The biggest disappointment this season has actually been him.
Wow. Paul Skinner, 88, said, a fascinating interview. My takeaways, I agree with most of it. The bit about recruitment is baffling, as he came out in favour of Ling just after he was sacked, and that was his job. But he takes no responsibility himself. It's going to make for an interesting star man.
Gary Go 7 said, I'd rather that interview than the placid stuff that usually comes out of managers' mouths. He cares, he wants to win, but he also needs to improve so that this season does not happen again.
Freddie LOFC said, not being funny, but he wasn't doing any of the post-match interviews before today. Feels like now we're safe. He wants to put himself in the limelight. I was surprised that he'd done it, because I was under the impression that you couldn't do the post-match.
Yeah.
But he didn't do pre-match against Blackpool.
Yeah.
That was Paul Terry.
He
done pre-match for Burton.
Yeah.
And Paul Terry done post-match for Blackpool.
Yeah, because he couldn't be in the stadium. But I'm wondering if this is because he was in the car park
Don't
behind
know.
and he couldn't do it in the...
No idea. Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know what the rules are there. Adam of Upminster said, love this. He certainly didn't pull any punches, and rightly so in my opinion. Far too many work-shy shirkers in that squad. 3 or 4 players aside who are far more interested in dining out on fried chicken in fast food restaurants for social media likes than acting like professional footballers. That was a comment, in case people missed it, to a
Slim
club
Chickens.
partner who are called Slim Chickens, and that was an ad for them. Especially during challenging times for the club, they successfully made arguably the best manager in League One look like an idiot, and that's completely on them.
Fair point. Philip Bocello said, I back Richie Wellens, but even if some and much of what he says is true, it may have been wiser to offer a more humble appraisal of the season, taking some responsibility and reflecting on any mistakes he made and what he could do better, rather than excoriating the players. It's a great tweet there from Philip.
That's really summed it up in a tweet, what we've just said.
Final
in like
word
2
on Richie
minutes.
Wellens, actually.
Absolutely. Kevin Cowland said, many players let the club down weak and lacking courage. Rich's interview was refreshingly honest. He's been let down badly and now certain players need to be paid off ASAP. I hope Richie stays. He's a winner. Some have been stealing a wage for too long.
Yeah, great show. I mean, we could have done a whole separate interview, a whole separate episode on that interview, and we'll see what comes from it going forward, because like Paul said, it's still lots of comments around it, lots of engagement, people are still picking up on it. I think the New York Times done a tweet about it as well. It is fully gone global.
It's gone global, yeah.
All right, so that was Richie Wellens' interview. We're going to go back to post-match now, our post-match, which isn't going to raise the roof or
No,
global.
we're not going to go viral off the back of this one. I'll kick this off. Look, thank God the season's over. Literally, thank God the season's over. That wasn't our worst game though. I actually thought we did quite well there. We've scored 2 goals, which in itself is an achievement considering we've not had a shot on goal barely in the last 3 or 4 games. So we've stepped up in that regard. I thought actually some of our football at times was pretty good to watch. Just the defending was off. We created some opportunities. Glad Ballard has got the golden boot, and I thought when Elmiz came on, he made a huge difference, especially for that second goal where he wins the ball out wide, and then feeds Craig, who then feeds Ballard. It was he just makes it tick, and he just reads the game exceptionally well. I thought it was one of Craig's better games actually. Played in a more favoured position. Shock horror. Brings out the best in a player because he's more comfortable playing in a position that is favoured. He played it right back, but he was more sort of moving into midfield from that point, from what I could see. We stayed up though because another team was slightly worse than us. A bit like Wickham in the 11-12 season, where we stayed up just because they lost on the final day. When that was under Russell Slade, if everybody casts their mind back. But yeah, we drew our game. We didn't take care of our business. Taking care of our business would have meant that we won that game.
Of course.
But we didn't. So thanks to Bradford, who had, thank God, something to play for. They won and we stayed up. And sometimes that's just a bit of luck that maybe we've been missing all season that we needed.
Agreed.
For you?
We got through it. I mean, like I said, I was always confident without, blowing one's own trumpet. I just didn't think Exeter were ever going to get anything from Bradford. So I didn't feel there was ever a risk there. In the end, that's what we needed, right? Because like you said, they didn't do it for themselves. That's the most disappointing part. Had we won, you could kind of take more positives and we would have finished 17th. And it's probably where we deserve to finish at the end of the day. You always deserve to finish where you finish. But it could have been a very different episode if Exeter City had won.
Yeah.
It would be a very, very different episode tonight. But that's the story of the season, really. Can't hold leads. When we go ahead, we can't hold it. And when we don't go ahead, we can't really equalise. Been far too reliant on Ballard. I do think the points I picked up on, I'm not going to kind of go through kind of your points, which I mostly agree with, but that atmosphere was superb, right?
Yeah, I agree.
And it shows you the atmosphere isn't where it needs to be. For whatever reason, that's the first time it's felt like that this season. And it's how do you make the atmosphere like that for every game? Because it definitely had an effect, I think, on the players, especially in the opening 5 minutes. We scored after 2 minutes, which we haven't done all season. I think someone might correct me if I'm wrong at home. But it's how do you get it to that level of support for every game? Where most seats taken, loud, and everyone's behind the team. I don't know how you do that.
Yeah, I agree.
But that's something that I think both the club and the fan base and the SLO and fans groups could maybe work on with the club, because that was an electric atmosphere. So I think that is a tangible correlation between that support and scoring so early. Like you could feel the passion coming from, and that hasn't been the case for most of the season.
Yeah.
So I do think that could be worked on. Like I said, when asked about Ballard, is he staying? Richie didn't give a conclusive yes. So I think I mentioned it when we talked about that goal. But if that is to be the last we see of Don Ballard in an Orient shirt, fair play. 23 goals, a celebration in front of the South Stand. Good luck to him.
Yeah, agree.
I think so. He's kind of signed off.
But that's on our
his
terms.
fairy tale season.
That's on our terms. Like, if we don't get the right,
You'd
fee for
hope
him-
so, unless
Yeah.
the football agent comes knocking on the door, but I can't see Ballard doing that. But I mean, there's already a fairly big football writer who says Wrexham have been sniffing,
Yeah, I
having
saw
a look.
that. Yeah.
Decent reporter as well.
Hull City.
We know for a fact he's had interest from other scouts sitting in the gallery.
But equally, that's all well and good. But look what's happened to Charlie Kelman, who hasn't.
Well,
Richard Kone, Davis Keeler done.
Kone plays first team, mate. Kone's got
yeah,
a couple
but
of figures. The one I would look for is Keeler Dunn, who's played 81 minutes. I saw it on a tweet. He's played 81 minutes of football since leaving Barnsley.
Yeah.
On transfer deadline day.
But
So it
Kone's
isn't always
done
greener.
amazing for $2.5 million.
Not bad, double figures.
Is he?
Played
What,
played
10,
football,
12?
just decent for his first in the Championship. I must say though, lack of appreciation, probably perfect, probably exactly how you would have played it.
Yeah.
Wasn't over celebrated. Archibald will always get the plaudits, which he did. Connolly kind of seemed to do it separately from everyone else at the end. Don't know if you saw that. If that was what it was like in the East Stand. Everyone done it, and then Connolly kind of appeared after, and everyone was singing the Connolly song. Looked like Happy was saying goodbye.
Do you think?
Yeah. Looked like Happy was saying goodbye. James's was quite quick. The two I look at, you go, actually, if you lose them, who deserves respect of Orient fans when they leave? Tom James. Because
Agree.
whether you agree with what his performance has been like this season, last season,
He's a good guy.
big servant to the club. He seemed to do his very quickly, so I couldn't gauge. I was watching to try and see what was happening with the players. Happy seems to be waving quite a lot. So we'll see. Personally, I hope Happy stays. I think if you keep Dan Happy fit, I think there's a quality player still. Probably coming into the pinnacle of his career.
He's
But the
28.
quality is, though, does he feel like he needs a change?
Yeah.
Possibly.
After
But I did
nearly
feel
10
like he was
years.
saying goodbye from his waving.
I think the thing about Dan is as well is like the problem is his fitness. He's always
100%,
had injuries.
yeah.
That's the problem. And can we afford to carry that? And if you can afford to carry that, then you need to sign a first choice left-sided centre back.
Well, let me say, Will Forrester. He's
Right.
come to exactly the same injury problems what Happy's had.
Yeah.
Barely played a full season in the last 3 or 4 since he was at Bolton.
Yeah.
So we've signed someone else who's similar to that. Again, Simpson's probably the same. They
Yeah.
just, if all quality League One defenders, if you can keep them fit.
Yeah.
Which I mean,
Which we can't.
it's been a shocking season for injuries. And in Connolly, we'll see. Maybe that's the last time. Well, maybe not now if his shoulder's damaged, because no one's signing him with a damaged shoulder. If he ain't going to get a full pre-season, I guess we'll see what happens with that one. So very interesting.
Yeah, I
So
don't disagree.
all in all, it was all right on the night
Yeah.
down at Brisbane Road. Again, lots of views based on the Burton game. Dirk Turk started us off saying had to rely on a team winning one of their last 20 games to survive. And that's a terrible stat for Exeter. Knew we didn't have it in us to do our part today. Looking forward to David Ganler's review of the season. Hopefully he's now seen that some of the people we currently employ aren't good enough to take us forward.
The Untold Game said couldn't even do the job for one game against a team on the beach. Maybe I'm grumpy, but I'm not celebrating that disgrace.
Boatsy said, thank goodness for Bradford beating Exeter. We've been terrible at the back all season. And thankfully, we will have another season in League One. Not celebrating anything because it's been such a poor season, but just relieved to stay up. Huge inquest required in the summer. Now, bear in mind, Forrester's here to stay, first team.
Yeah,
Morris is here to stay, first team.
yeah.
Well, Dennis has been fantastic. I don't think he comes back, but if he does come back, people are saying how bad the defence is. That's 3 out of the 5 who are permanent defenders for next season.
Yeah, which is decent if you keep them fit.
Well, depending, but everyone's saying how bad the back four's been. 2 of those back 4 are here next season and first teamers, no doubt.
That's fine. I'm all right with that.
Okay.
It's just the rest of them. There's not been a consistent right back. There's not been a consistent left back. It's been between Happy and Simpson, who haven't played
Interesting.
particularly well at times. Dan Happy's a bit more aggressive than Jack Simpson, though, I think. But yeah, the keeper behind them.
There's some choices
All
to be
stems
made.
from that.
I mean,
Yeah,
you've got to think they
absolutely.
probably won't sign both Simpson and Happy. It's probably one or the other.
Well,
if
you need
any.
two-sided left centre backs, right?
But
You
I
need
think- but I
two
think-
for each position.
Based on what he said, saying that their stats don't stack up.
Yeah.
We'll see.
LOFC Loza, thank you, Bradford. Big inquest needed. Squad not strong enough to withstand key injuries. Character may be lacking. Relied on Ballard. But we will be playing Sheffield Wednesday and Leicester City in League One next
Happy
season.
days. Matteo FC Evans said, huge wake-up call to everyone at the club. We need change and we need it immediately. Bradford did us a favour. And whatever the summer brings, it needs to be ruthless. The squad we have now isn't good enough. Verdict's still out for me on Richie's tenure too, but time to breathe.
G Shaw 0. Phew, safety by default. Another substandard performance. There's only 3 or 4 players that I'd want to see starting come August. Big rebuild required again. Thanks to Bradford for doing the job for us. Go and win those playoffs.
Crime to courtroom said overall a disjointed performance, but at least all 11 gave it their best. Well, Dennis, just immense.
Ryan Peanut said disgraceful. Couldn't even save ourselves. Heads should roll. Proper embarrassing season. One player can hold their head high, and that's Ballard. He will likely be sold anyway. I'm glad the season's over.
Theo Bertram said we stayed up, and that's all that matters. Players showed character, and the fans played their part. Too many mistakes at the back. Connolly was sharp, but Ballard is in the wrong league. We've been lucky to have him.
Orient boy said it's bittersweet relying on Exeter to lose when we needed to win one game. After years of annual rebuilds, we now have a contracted group not fit for purpose. Too many I do not want to see wear the shirt again. Keep Dennis, Elmiz, Connolly, Dom and Forrester. All the rest can go, please.
All right, Orient_Ed said thrilled that the season is done. Get the deadwood out now and build a proper team. We were bright in places, but ultimately nowhere near enough quality. Simpson was useless. Wellens bottled challenges, and Perkins yet again showed he's out of his depth. Thank you, Bradford City.
The authentic Gaz said that amazing feeling at the final whistle, the unreserved joy, the punching the air, and all because this sorry season is over at last. Praise the Lord.
And the _PO16, thank God the season is over. The O's survived due to being marginally less inept than 4 other teams in the league, where you need strength, aggression, bravery and power. We had none. Huge upgrades needed all over, and need to bin off the slight, flouncy, weak-minded ones.
Painting Orient said the defence were largely at odds with each other, relying upon Dennis entertaining enough as the Bantams kept Exeter at bay. It will be interesting to see how proactive the transfer policy will be within the obvious areas. Gary Bowyer, the first away manager to applaud us since Pep.
Probably the first time Gary Bowyer's been put in the same tweet as Pep. Nice one there. The tipping Tim. Crawling over the line in dismal fashion was a fitting end. Personally would keep Wellens and pretend this season never happened, but Ballard, Connolly, Elmis and Dennis are the only players on the pitch today I'd want starting next season, and 2 of those won't be there.
Richie J. Bourne said, really pleased we stayed up. After travel, we'll be back home at 10:30. It's a pity half of this squad can't make the same effort. The sideways passing in the final 10 minutes and the walking pace was poor. Some of those need getting rid of or loaned out next season. No contract renewals.
Ian Hutchinson 08 said a car crash of a season all round. Not acceptable at all. However, to your point, Mr. Levy, the flack Charlie Wellens is getting for me is very harsh. He's a young player trying to make his way in football. Not his fault the dad's a manager. And is he really any worse than most of the squad?
Great point, well made. Absolutely agree. Toby of Loxley said, we owe Bradford our spot in League One. Despite the fact that we couldn't get the win, everyone put in a good fighting performance today, apart from...
I think he's talking about Charlie Wellens there.
Do you think?
Yep.
Apart from him, of course. Yeah. Not really sure what went wrong this season. Good signings on paper. Karoma, Mitchell Craig. Horrific in reality.
David Cowell once a credible performance and the objectives were achieved. I pleaded with these players to give me everything to protect our League One status. And today and tomorrow we celebrate going to Leicester and Sheffield Wednesday rather than Accrington and Swindon.
The Orient Way gets the penultimate word, who said, we're safe. That is all that matters in my book. Might not be the squad that we remember for years to come, but was still a season with some incredible moments. I feel lucky that we got to witness Don Ballard week in, week out. I wish the best no matter what happens. Great tweet, Luke.
Yeah, very good. I think it's easy to say as well. You know, you talk about how many, I guess, bad players we signed. On the flip side, though, you sign Don Ballard, right? And the profit you're going to make on Don Ballard is going to be
covers
huge.
all the losses.
It's going to be massive,
all the
right?
payouts that we're going to have to make. Doesn't it?
They could be looking at that, literally going, if you get X for Ballard, you can pay Y percentage of that on other player. But, I mean, no one talks about how good some of the committee work was. Ballard, Connolly, we all know the quality Connolly's had, but he's been terrible with injuries. El Mizuni.
Found him.
Everyone seems to love Forrester. Yeah. Everyone seems to love Dennis. So you've got to take half of the bad and put it alongside the good and go, actually, but we did sign some absolute chaff. But at the same time, you sign some absolute wheat as well to go alongside.
But the chaff far outweighs the wheat.
Yeah.
Far outweighs it. That's the problem. That's why it's like 30% good and 70% bad.
Profit you're going to make on Ballard, though.
We'll
maybe
all of
if
it.
you sell. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, interesting. All right, final word for this one goes to MS Orient. Mark, I hope you're recovering well after your operation. He says, Will Dennis is amazing. Now, that's a keeper. If there's just one positive this season, it's the recommendation from Matt Harrold to bring him in.
Yeah.
He has made crucial saves today, been outstanding, massive player towards the end. You would think now you'd be leaning on, right? You'd be leaning on Matt Harrold, who you know.
Yeah,
Alex
Alex
going, right, who's ready at Bournemouth to go and play League One football? Who isn't going to break in? Already, you'd hope they'd be going. McLuhan, be pick up the phone to Harold and going, right, give me your two strongest players who you think are ready for League One. Can we have them? Can we get the job
done? They've
done?
got a new manager coming in, so I can't imagine anyone going before that person's in.
Possibly, but Will Dennis ain't making the Bournemouth squad. Like, he's number 3 or 4 there. Like, he's not going to make the squad. Like, there's players on their books who are just there as real backup for the backup.
Would you take him on a season-long loan?
Will Dennis?
Rather than, if they said, no, we're not going to sell him, but we season-long loan, would you do it? Would you?
Yeah.
Rather than a perm keeper?
Yeah. I think for League One level, you ain't getting much better than Will Dennis.
Okay.
I know it goes against everything I've said previously about getting an established keeper in, but I think if you offer Dennis is different because we know Dennis.
He's a known quantity, isn't he? We know what we're getting with him.
I think so.
And then Cahill would be the backup.
Yeah, I mean, Carl was a backup anyway. I mean, you might see Carl go on loan next season and might push Phillips as a number 2 to get him an experience. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah.
Good question.
So let us know if you agree or disagree with anything we've read out, any of the views or opinions shared in this podcast. We're on all social media platforms. You can email us if you're not on them as well. So let's move on then to the Prediction League.
All right, it was the final prediction of the season, and in this one we only had one correct prediction. So well done to Elsie Wincanton, who predicted 2-2. Obviously had Ballard to score like everyone did. They got 4 points.
Well played.
Which means for the final time this season, the top of the Prediction League finished in with Kurt Mayle winning the Prediction League on 25 points. That's quite a low points tally to win it. Normally it would take you a bit more than that to win it. Well done to Kurt Mayle. In second place was Steve Chaplin 4, who won a couple of seasons ago, so he's run up this season. Well done to Steve. And in third place was Big TB47 on 18 points. Thanks to everyone who predicted the scorelines all over the season, and all being well, the Prediction League will return next season. That again is a tweet that gets a lot of coverage. If you're sitting there going, I'm sick of these Prediction League tweets showing up on my timeline, but if you do own a business and you want to get on that timeline, give us a DM. There's plenty of opportunity there. That is an absolute stonker of a sponsorship opportunity.
Agree.
That Prediction League goes far and wide. So well done again to Kurt Mayle. We'll be in contact with DM to say well done to you soon.
Indeed. So let's move on then to yesterday, Sunday the 3rd of May, with an update from LOFCwomen.com, who report on the women's team game against Tooting Bec, and it was a comprehensive 10-1 win against second place Tooting Bec to seal the Premier Division title and an automatic promotion. 7 goals from captain Grace Gillard, who was on this podcast. We must be her good luck charm.
She's a defender.
She's a defender. She scored 7 of the 10 goals, along with 1 each from Macy Windsor, Maddie Biggs and Georgia Griffin.
Wow. Okay. All right. The ladies have sealed the title with 2 games to spare. Next up is a very rare Wednesday. Oh, do you know what? I've just seen the Man City score. It's annoyed me. Away against Luton Town, and on Sunday the ladies' final league game of the season is a home fixture against AFC Leighton. This match will take place at Redbridge. You've just seen the Everton score as well. Will take place at Redbridge Football Club Stadium, right next to Barkingside Tube Station. Kicking off this one at 2:00.
Sorry, I was looking at that. Yeah, unfortunately for Tooting Bec, they have to face Orient one more time. This is for the John Greenacre Memorial Trophy on May the 17th to wrap up the season for both teams, and hopefully a treble of silverware for the O's.
All right, so well done in to everyone at the ladies winning the league, and thanks once again to LFCwomen.com on the fantastic coverage over the season. All right, also on Sunday then, the club announced that having received a large number of season card applications over the weekend. I mean, who saw that coming? Everyone. They've moved this. Everyone knew they were leaving it until they knew what division they'd be in.
What we haven't spoke or mentioned yet is the fuss that was caused by an email that went out on the Friday before the game. We've note from the club saying, we've noticed that you've missed some games. Will you intend on being there on Saturday?
A poorly timed email.
Poorly worded email. Perfectly timed, but poorly worded. We fed back to Mark, so it's not another dig, but just thinking about the season applications.
Fair.
Yeah, go on.
Fair. All right. So now, if you haven't already tried to renew, you've now got until 5 p.m. this Friday, the 8th of May, to do so. So the club have given fans more time to purchase. It was always going to happen, wasn't it? It was like, always going to happen. And you've done it on a bank holiday weekend.
Yeah.
Well, as a deadline, what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah.
All right.
What's going to happen? So in the evening, it was the Supporters Club Starman Awards at the
Prince
Regent Hotel in Chigwell, and the winners were Claudio Anzang won the Academy Player of the Season.
Well done, Claudio. Sean Clare won Community Player of the Season. Well done, Sean.
Theo Archibald won Supporters Club Merit Award.
Good
so a
to
special
see.
award there, yeah.
Aaron Connolly won Supporters Club Away Player of the Season. I got to say, he only played about 8 away games. How's Don Ballard? I mean, Don Ballard's pretty much won everything, but I'm surprised Don Ballard didn't win that.
Yeah. Amongst also his goal of the season for Cardiff away.
Player of the Season.
Young Player of the Season.
Plays Player of the Season.
And Manager's Player of the Season, which was very abruptly awarded.
Where Richard Williams got up and went Don Ballard and then sat back down again and then left straight away.
Allegedly, because we weren't there.
I mean, I've got to say, we made a call very early on not to go this season due to mostly team performance, I would say. And knowing it wasn't going to be, I guess, the most happy of evenings. But look, well done again to the Sports Club. That's a hard thing to put on.
Credit to Linda and the team
for
doing that year
work.
in, year out. That should not be underestimated.
A lot of work. Hopefully, a lot of, I guess, I mean, there weren't many club people there, I think, but hopefully a few of the players stayed to kind of speak with fans. But I can't imagine it was a good atmosphere as what it is previously has been. But yeah, a huge amount of work went into that. So well done to everyone. Well done to everyone who won their awards as well. All right, today, Monday the 4th of May.
Bank holiday Monday.
No news to report apart from that Richie
day.
Wellens interview is still picking up traction. So 1 hour, 26 minutes, 40 seconds, time to bring the penultimate podcast of the season to its end. You heard us gasp earlier. That was because I was looking at my fantasy football team and saw that Everton and Man City drew 3-3. So the top of the Premier Fantasy Football League for the Orient Outlook podcast has Daniel Clark leading the way on 2,179 points. He's followed in second place by Josh Abrahams, who's had a bit of a poor week. Josh, he is 38 points behind. Daniel, I'm currently sitting in 78th place out of 397 players. And again, the Premier League's got another 2 or 3 weeks left, so we'll keep that running and update you via our social media platforms at the end of the season's fun. Who wins that one?
Yeah, so our Fantasy EFL Football League, A Blower is at the top of that at the moment on 3,553 points, 71 points ahead of Team Cornwall, who has been in second place practically all season. Steve doing well in 12th, and I am propping up in 24th out of 64 players or 67 players that we've got in that league at this moment in time. It does count for the playoffs as well, I believe, so that is not over. We will report back on that at a later point as well.
Alright, so time for the positives and negatives of the week. We'll go vice versa on the positives. First positive, it ain't even an Orient thing, but well done to Bradford for beating Exeter City. Banter City.
And then we're still in League One. We're still a League One club. That is the only positive, really.
Praise the Lord. All right. I can't believe this is a positive on the podcast, but we're going to say after not scoring for, I think it was 450 minutes or something like that, we scored 2 goals in 90. Well done to the goal scorers.
Yeah, Don Ballard obviously winning the League One Golden Boot and also the Red Boot, which is a charity orientated boot, because he was the EFL leading scorer alongside, as we said earlier, Vipotnik from Swansea.
And the last positive was the atmosphere inside Brisbane Road. And we have to make it like that all through next season. That will be worth at least double-digit points in itself to get the atmosphere like that, to really drive it to the away team and supporters.
Yeah. So negatives, really, injuries that we've sustained. Obviously, we just mentioned Aaron earlier on. Hopefully, he's not so serious. But if the operation is going to go down that, if he is going down the route of the operation, hopefully it's a speedy recovery for him. The only other negative that's just cropped into my mind is the fact that we stayed up, but not through our own endeavour.
Absolutely. Yeah. Nothing to be that proud of, as per Rich's interview. So that's a hero of the week. So we're going to give it to 3 different award winners this
across
week.
the club.
We are. All right. Let's do it then. So we'll do one after the other.
Ladies, well done, ladies, for winning the league.
Yeah, well done. Well done to all the team involved. That. Secondly, we announced it earlier.
Yeah,
the youth. Yeah, well done, winning the Arsenal Academy Cup against Brentford.
No mean feat.
Amazing.
No mean feat. We're a Cat 3's club. We're a Cat 3 academy, the lowest kind of ranking we've got. And Brentford, you'd imagine, are a Cat 1 academy.
Easy, yeah. Well done to that one. And lastly, we've talked about him all through the Burton game. saved our bacon, numerous points. Well done to
Will Dennis.
Yeah, well done, Will Dennis.
So it's a bit of a three-way split. We couldn't really decide. We didn't think one deserved it more than the other because their individual achievements are great, and Will Dennis kept us in that game. So, look, next week's fixtures, none, nada,
Thankfully.
zero. Thank the Lord, it is over. We are done. We've done all 46 games. So a sponsorship reminder, don't forget, get in touch with John and their fabulous team of experienced florists. Call them on 0208 529 4130. You can contact them on socials, Carol Langley E4 or Essex Biz on Twitter, and just search Carol Langley Florist on Facebook or Instagram.
All right, so that is it. Thanks for everyone for joining us for episode 428 as the O's made it through and remain a League One club just by the skin of our teeth. And it took Bradford City's win at Exeter to confirm our League One status after the O's could only draw at home to Burton Albion on the weekend. And Richie's post-match certainly has put the cat amongst the pigeons. And now we wait for the retain list, which I think will follow the next couple of days, actually. I can't imagine that'll be too long.
Interestingly, Doncaster put theirs out last week before the last game of the season.
Doncaster did. I think a few other clubs did today. We've seen Peterborough's have done theirs. There's a few have done theirs. There's a lot floating around. So for what is sure to be the start of a busy summer of transfer activity, hopefully the club get out by Sunday and we can talk about it in next week's podcast.
Yeah.
And give, if people are leaving, some of these players the respect they deserve. Like we said, if Happy ends up going or if Tom James ends up going, they deserve utmost respect. But in the meantime, like we've just said, we still have our final episode to complete the season where we will look back and give our thoughts on a disappointing 2025-2026 campaign. That's going to be great fun.
Yeah,
hopefully we'll get an interview for that
pleasure.
one. I think it'll be good to try and get someone
Yeah.
on that one to give their kind of view on it. So we'll
Agreed.
try our best here on our podcast hours.
So if you're listening on iTunes, please subscribe. Give the podcast a 5-star rating. If you're on Spotify, don't forget you can now comment and rate the show on each episode. So please do so if you get the chance. And don't forget to follow us or add us to your favourites on your chosen podcast provider, as that way you'll get all the episodes as soon as they're available. We're also on smart speakers. You can also get us on the Fan Hub app. We're also on YouTube. So listening to the podcast has never been easier. If you've got an older relative, a loved one, or an Orient chum who you think will like the podcast, grab their phone, download it for them, and pass the pod. And like Steve said earlier, we're going to be back next week with episode 429 with our final season roundup. We'll have all the views and we'll be engaging with tweets during the course. We'll be engaging with you during the course of the week with Twitter polls and thoughts on the season that we'll include in this podcast. So for the coming week, keep calm, stay safe, have a great week, and listen to the Orient Outlook podcast.
Up the O's!